listening to Opening the Harp Chakra, the podcast, bringing you beautiful, healing, magical harp music and talking with the artists that create it. I'm your host, Jay Michaels. Thank you for being with us today. Today's guest, a certified clinical musician, spiritual harpist, conscious self-care expert, a speaker, a recording artist, composer, author. She empowers and inspires audiences with her programs on the healing power of music, vibrational resonance, life lessons learned from her 2-year journey through breast cancer. And for the past 25 years, she's been studying sound healing and specifically how the harp heals through music. She joins us from her studio, Amy Camie. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for the invitation to join you.
I'm so happy you are here. I'm so happy to talk to you about the good work that you do. Could we begin, though, with your origin story? How did you first come to be a harp player?
Well, it started when I was very young. I was actually adopted when I was 1 month old, and both of my parents were music teachers. So I've always known I was raised with the perfect set of parents. And I started piano when I was 5 years old, and I started harp lessons when I was 10. And it wasn't something that I always just wanted to do. My father actually asked me if I wanted to play the harp because he was the administrator of music in our school system, and there wasn't a harpist. And he had these visions of the high school musicals with a harp in the pit orchestra. So that's why I started to play.
So what made you start thinking about the harp as a healing instrument? What led you into that path?
After I graduated from Indiana University, I came home and a friend of ours was going through hospice care. And I didn't even know what hospice was at the time, but something inside of me just inspired me to sit down and record a cassette tape. And basically it was just gigging music because I was gigging, I was playing in restaurants and background music. So I did. And another friend of ours was with her when she was listening, and she came and she said, Amy, you could literally see her body relax. And that was the first time I ever hooked up in my mind, oh, music can help you really relax and heal and bring comfort in a different way than just the performances that I was trained to do. So I found a music therapist and we developed a questionnaire. And that was really our first pilot study that indicated we sent out 50 different sets. They filled out the questionnaire first, then they listened to the music, and then they filled out a second part of the questionnaire. And they all came back that they perceived they were more relaxed after they heard the music, even if they did not particularly like harp music. So we were already addressing this idea that you have to like the music in order for it to be effective. But that was way back in that was probably 1990, maybe 90, even before that. And I graduated in 87. But that was the spark that lit up. It helped my family friend or our family friend. And then my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer 7 years later. And I recorded another CD for him because I knew that musicians listen to music differently than non-musicians. They tend to analyze it. They tend to try to predict where it's going. They have all this prior relationship to the music. And I wanted my dad to really relax. And so I chose to record New Age piano solos on solo harp. And that CD ended up being called New Love, Awaken to Yourself. And after it was recorded, based upon the responses that people were giving us, we shared those responses with a neurotherapist here in St. Louis, and he was very intrigued. And so that was Dr. William Collins. And he offered to do a pilot study measuring people's brainwave frequencies as they listen to the music. And what's fascinating is my intention when I recorded that CD was to help my dad relax and heal after surgery. And what we found with the QEEG measurements was that that's exactly what was happening. We were lowering the beta waves and increasing the alpha wave frequencies in everybody who listened. So literally we were relaxing and calming the brain in 4 minutes. And that was very intriguing to Dr. Collins because he said, if we can relax and calm the brain in 4 minutes, then perhaps we can impact the immune system. So that was that first conversation way back in, that was probably 1997, about the psychoneuroimmunological connection between the brain and the immune system. And that led to a whole different path that I could never have predicted for myself. We ended up developing a clinical trial and starting a nonprofit foundation called the Scientific Arts Foundation. We received IRB approval for our clinical trial. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So it's still sitting in my drawer. The fast forward 20 years, we are in the process of raising funds for a new clinical trial that has been approved through Washington University School of Medicine here in St. Louis, and it will be implemented at Siteman Cancer Center once it's funded. It's a different, there are different measurements, but it is, it was designed with the knowledge of this larger clinical trial that had been developed years ago, because hopefully we can grow into that one. So the research is continuing.
So I have to ask, because you mentioned the breast cancer and that you had done the CD for your dad's prostate cancer, playing the harp and your journey through that must have been a pivotal part of your healing process, having the harp and playing it, right?
Well, it wasn't necessarily playing it, but the answer to your question is yes. The music was a pivotal part of my healing with breast cancer. And it was actually listening to the music that I had recorded prior to my diagnosis. So the CD I recorded for my father, that was called New Love Awaken to Yourself. And my intention was to help him relax and heal. During those next 10 years or so, I was embarking on a deeper personal journey of self-discovery to really get into my fears of why I was resisting expressing my own music, because I'm classically trained. And I was afraid that I did not know enough theory to write my own music. So I felt this block inside of me. And through a conversation, I mean, we hear this all the time, that music is a language. But I was having this conversation with somebody, and it just landed in a totally different way, that as children, we learn to speak by playing with the sounds, like mama, da, da, and we're just playing with how it feels. And then we put a couple sounds together and it becomes words. And then we put a few words together and it becomes a phrase or it becomes a sentence. And years later, we go to school and learn the theory of our language. So I had to just realize I was an infant, even though I was classically trained and I was a professional musician. I was an infant at learning how to express through this language of music. So during this process, I was just playing with notes, literally like 2 and 3 notes at a time. And then my husband shared with me some ancient healing chants. And we have a very deep spiritual connection. So his voice literally became this highway that resonated this remembrance inside of me in a very spiritual way. And I started to hear music and it played me from the inside. And they were very simple, but yet powerful melodies. And they possessed me, literally. They played me constantly. And so the only reason I went into the studio was to get the music out of me. And that CD became the Magic Mirror CD. And I had no personal intention when I recorded that music. So the highway, I call it a highway, was clear. That's the music that we ended up doing more research with, more pilot study research with, as we were developing that earlier clinical trial. And that research indicated that it normalized neurological functioning in 5 women going through chemotherapy treatment after listening to it once a day for only 10 days. So we had already been doing pilot study research with the Magic Mirror with cancer patients. And then I was diagnosed. So I received the gift of my own music and listened to it twice a day during my journey because I was actually diagnosed twice. The first time I had chemotherapy and radiation. And then the second time I had a lumpectomy and full hysterectomy. So I went through a lot of surgeries. I went through a lot of treatment. And the Magic Mirror was the music that I listened to because I knew that it was normalizing my neurological functioning. I did not experience brain fog or chemo brain. And I also knew it was supporting my immune system because we had done some prior pilot studies as well. So I didn't play music during my treatment, but I listened to the music that I had already recorded.
Because I have some people that play that tell me the actual playing of the harp and the physical vibrations make them feel that healing energy. But it's also the listening, as in your case.
Absolutely. Yes. And we hear through the vibrations that enter our bodies as the instrument is, literally on our body and resonating it. And we also hear through the ears as it travels through that vagus nerve and gets inside our bodies. They say sound is a nutrient for the nervous system because that vagus nerve literally travels and is getting and reaching all of the internal organs. So it's very powerful.
Well, we have the Magic Mirror here. It's a very long piece, but we're going to play a little bit of it, maybe at the very beginning. I wonder if you could just introduce this for us.
Sure. So the Magic Mirror has 4 specific melodies. We have mastered it so that there is no break between the melodies as far as the sound goes, the track goes. This first melody is one that helps inspire the awakening and the preparation for meditation. The visualizations that I had for this chant was literally the awakening of the sun. And the ritual of bringing that light of awareness for that new day.
That is from The Magic Mirror, Amy Camie, today's guest. Amy, last week I was reading an article you wrote called Discover How All Music Can Be Healing. Not just the soothing harp music, but all music. You mentioned heavy metal, video game soundtracks. And boy, that really touched me. That was, because we often think of the healing music needs to be gentle, soothing, but you're saying there's more to it than that.
Absolutely. And I guess it starts with the definition of healing. For me, healing is more about balance, coming into a state of balance within ourselves. And I'll just share a personal story, which probably reflects, hopefully, this idea. I was taking our sons to school in high school. I would drive them, and they listened to, on this particular day, the Halo soundtrack. The Halo soundtrack has all of these wonderful rhythms and electronic amplifications and voices, and it's just this epic sound. And when I got home, I just let that music continue to play as I sat in the driveway, and I let that music inside of me. And initially, I would resist letting that type of music in because it felt powerful and forceful. And I've had these same experiences with heavy metal music as well, because it just feels angry or loud and just not comfortable. But when I would turn the mirror and I realized, why was I resisting that kind of music? It's because I was resisting looking at that anger within myself. It's because I was resisting feeling those feelings that I had repressed within myself. And so as the music came into my space, I literally just energetically opened to allow the vibrations in and find those blocks and find that resistance. And it was this amazing internal cleansing. It was so powerful. And then once that was complete, I felt so clear and clean on the inside, because for me, it's having those blocks that was creating an imbalance within me. So it's about listening consciously. It's about using music consciously to discover these aspects about ourselves. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of self-awareness to turn the mirror and acknowledge, yeah, I've got a lot of whatever it is inside of me. And the energy of this music will help resonate it. It will sympathetically resonate because it's the same frequency. It will help move that energy and then give me choices about what to do with it. I could journal, I could dance, I could move, I could scream, I could go for a run, whatever it is that your body is calling you to do. Listen, and that was the other piece of the cancer journey for me too, is just this deeper listening to what our bodies need.
In the article, part of it that really resonated with me is you wrote, the lower notes of an instrument create its deep resonance and fullness of sound, just as those heavy, dark, and painful experiences create the potential depths of our compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. I mean, that is so perfectly said about those lower notes. There's something comforting and soothing.
Yes. And then we don't have to be afraid. When we address those low notes, those hard, difficult, painful experiences within ourselves, then we're able to be in that same space with other people who may be going through it. It helps develop empathy so we can hold that sacred space and know that they can go through it because we did. And it dissolves judgment. And for me, that's what compassion is. Compassion is the ability to embrace all aspects of ourselves as part of the wholeness of who we are. And that's why I use the harp as a metaphor, because we have all of these different strings and vibrations within us. And that kind of helps people expand their perception about, oh, yeah, maybe those scary experiences, maybe those low notes, maybe I can learn something about myself. Maybe I did develop some new skills and learn that I am strong, or whatever the lessons are. There's always more that we can learn about ourselves as we dive into the depths.
Amy, can you talk to us about the difference between music therapy and therapeutic music?
So our current clinical trial that has been approved through Washington University School of Medicine here in St. Louis, I'm very excited about how we developed it because we specifically addressed the difference between music therapy and therapeutic music. A lot of the research that's happening right now with music is falling under this umbrella of music therapy, when in fact, it really isn't music therapy as in a traditional definition of music therapy, meaning using music to elicit a specific outcome and being administered by music therapists who are credentialed in that field of music. Therapeutic music is another field of music where we use music to help support the healing process, to help bring balance to the body, mind, and spirit. And there is actually a national standards board for therapeutic musicians. This board has created a standardized training for musicians who want to use music in this therapeutic way. And you can find information about the National Standards Board on their website that's going to be listed in the description of this show. And so I am certified as a certified clinical musician. And part of that process was to submit recordings demonstrating my ability to play music in very specific ways. And one of those ways is called non-rhythmic. It's where we play music that the body's rhythmic systems cannot naturally entrain or match the rhythms. There's more space between the notes. It feels very open. And this type of playing is used during hospice care as people are transitioning, for patients who have extreme pain, so that their body feels supported by the music, and yet the rhythmic systems in their body are not forced into an entrainment with the external music. There's more space for them to relax into their natural rhythms. So what we're going to listen to right now is literally my submission recording for my certification, and it's called The Light Within.
We just heard The Light Within, music from Amy Camie. When I was first starting to play out many, many years ago, someone once said, when you play, success comes from building this emotional bridge between yourself and your audience. And I was reading one of your articles about that too. Music is a vibrational connective highway, like you said before, that highway. So it's a similar thing, working with healing, building that bridge, that connection.
Yes. Well, I actually see every expression, whether it's talking or cooking or looking at somebody, we're constantly creating these highways of connection, bringing that which is within us out into the world. And specifically with music, I have found and experienced personally 3 different types of highways of connection. The first would be that highway from my mind. It's playing music that I have been taught. I'm reading sheet music. It's based on specific theories and structure and form. I might be performing it with a specific intention. In my earlier days, I would be practicing because I was getting ready for a competition or being judged, so that was a very mental expression. And then from the creative standpoint, producers produce and create music knowing specific ways that technology perhaps will affect the listener. For example, embedding music with binaural beats or different frequencies that will entrain different brainwave frequencies. I mean, they're producing it from this mental construct. And then there's this expression from our hearts, from that emotional feeling aspect, from being human. We all have those kinds of experiences of, oh my gosh, it's like the soundtracks of our lives, whatever the human experience or feeling, emotion we're having, creates a different kind of highway of connection. And then there's that expression that comes from the spirit, and it feels like we're not even involved. It's like the energy is just using our bodies. We're the hollow bone. We're the channel. It's when the melodies wake us up in the middle of the night, or all of a sudden the words start coming to a song. It's inspired expression. Children who just run free and are just screaming and la-laing. And that is like a soul expression. And so and I feel like each type of expression creates a different vibrational highway of connection with the listener.
That's so fascinating. So many different things going on, and it's all connecting us in different ways. And wow, it's just amazing. Amazing. We have a tune from your CD, A Spiral in Time. This is called Moments. Can you tell us more about this piece?
So whenever I record or feel the inspiration to record, it's usually because there's a journey involved. And Spiral in Time started out as a very specific journey for a very specific type of listener that we were recording original music for, because it was a new project that we were collaborating on. But then COVID hit and the project didn't go through, although we had already recorded the music. So my husband and I we sit in a room, we feel the energy, we kind of get an image of what's happening, and then I just play. And whatever comes out is what comes out for that track. After we realized this particular project was not going to happen in the way we thought, we stepped back and we listened to all this music again, and the bigger journey just presented itself. And it's this journey through time as we are reflecting as in a sunset, and then we go into the dreams, and then we dance with our ancestors, and then we feel the legacy that we can choose to accept with gratitude. And then the moments piece is when we become aware that every single moment we carry within us this legacy of our ancestors. And then we become part of these echoes through time as we continue the lineage. So moments is literally that awareness of, in every single moment, with every single choice, we are part of this large, ever never ending legacy that echoes throughout time.
From the CD, A Spiral in Time, the very beautiful Moments from Amy Camie today. Let's talk about self-expression and overcoming blockages.
So for me personally, the journey to freely express myself, it takes so much courage to turn the mirror and look inside. And for me, it was about embracing that fullness of who I am, my fears, my judgments, being open and being vulnerable was a lesson I learned in my cancer journey. And if you stand with your arms just wide open, okay, just exposing your heart and your soul, this position can feel so vulnerable, like we want to close down and protect ourselves. And yet, when we are grounded within ourselves and when we're comfortable with who we are, that position is so powerful because it's allowing access to the inside. And expressing ourselves through music, through spoken word, through art, through dance, through writing, whatever your expression is, there is vulnerability in that. But there's so much beauty. Because as human beings, we are all walking this journey together. We are all learning and we are all growing and we are all making mistakes and we are all trying to do our best. And as artists and as musicians, I feel our expressions can help people heal with that definition of finding balance within ourselves. And again, it goes back to that word compassion, embracing the fullness of who we are. All those low notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's been so great talking to you about all this. It's just, I appreciate what you do so much. If people want to find out more about you, of course, it's amycamie.com. That's CAMIE. We'll include links in the show notes to your website, your YouTube, your Facebook page. And boy, there's so much more we could talk about. Perhaps another time we'll have you back again and we can talk more. I mean, your research is so prolific and very important and so much appreciated by the world. So thank you so much for doing what you do.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you, Jay, for creating this platform for us to share and connect and create community. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If you have questions, guest suggestions, please email me, openingtheharpchakra@yahoo.com. We've also included links to PayPal and Venmo if you'd like to contribute to the production of this podcast. Please subscribe, please share, please tell your friends. In the coming weeks, more beautiful healing harp music from around the world. I'm Jay Michaels. Thank you so much. Peace. Namaste.